God married me, a 32-year-old man, to Naomi, a 31-year-old woman, 4 years ago. Around a year and a half ago, my brother Daniel, a 29-year-old man, also tied the knot with his wife, 28-year-old Anna. Our family's baby, my brother, has always been pampered and coddled. My parents' darling little child has never had any problems, and as a result, he has never been held accountable for anything or taken seriously as a responsible adult. In addition, he has a fierce rivalry with me, our 35-year-old sister Maria, and his siblings. He wants everything we own, including money, attention, a house, a partner, and so on. We decided to separate from him as a result of this. For a while now, Naomi and I had been considering becoming parents, but we wanted to wait until we were more secure in our jobs and had more money. About a year and a half ago, we finally made the decision that it was time to begin raising a family and bought our own home. She became pregnant around the time Daniel and Anna tied the knot, but I didn't make the announcement until well after the wedding since I didn't want to detract from their special day. We were anticipating completing the first trimester as well. We threw a dinner party at our house a week after Daniel got back from his honeymoon to tell my parents, Maria and her family, Naomi's parents, Daniel and Anna, and everyone else the good news. Everything was going rather well, and we stood up and announced to everyone that we were expecting a baby after hearing Daniel's story about their vacation. The majority of our family responded as one might anticipate. Our parents were genuinely bouncing with happiness as my sister was giving us hugs. I gave Naomi a hug and congratulated us. I believe Naomi's mom was sobbing. Daniel, on the other hand, only offered a grudging congrats, but I didn't really expect much more from him. He's never been one to enjoy having his attention diverted. The remainder of the dinner went well when we chose to ignore it. I was confused because how does one steal the spotlight from a honeymoon? Later that night, after everyone had left and we were in bed, I received a text from him that said, quote, "It was really rude of you guys to try to steal the spotlight from our wedding and honeymoon tonight. We expect an apology." I informed him that the wedding and honeymoon had ended a week ago. He said that they were still feeling betrayed and that we were flaunting our home, marriage, and new kid. We did not intend for this to come off as ludicrous, so I told him I was sorry he felt that way. In an effort to maintain good relations, I advised him to get in touch with me if he needed assistance with anything. He merely gave a thumbs-up emoji in response, and after that, people kind of forgot about it. But later on, this was going to come back to haunt me. Maria and our mothers hosted a baby shower for my wife at the start of this year. Naomi and Maria are very close, although Naomi doesn't have any siblings. Naturally, Daniel and Anna were also invited, and everything appeared to be going smoothly. Daniel stood up and said he wanted to share something with us just after my wife had done opening her gifts. Somehow, I knew what was going to happen at that same moment, and I still find it hard to believe I didn't see this coming. I regret not responding sooner, but he got up with Anna and told everyone they were expecting a baby. Naomi was understandably upset by this, as I could tell. Daniel had destroyed her day for attention, and now it was hers again. I was quite irritated, but everyone, including Naomi, was gracious in their congrats. Later, I pulled him aside and informed him that we had waited a full week after even his honeymoon had ended, and that what he had done was totally inappropriate. He pretended to be ignorant and uninformed about his surroundings. I therefore asked him and Anna to leave, and they complied. Later that day, my parents and Daniel sent me a lot of angry texts. "How could you ruin such a happy occasion for your brother like this? You're so selfish," and similar statements were the majority of what they said. While I didn't respond to Daniel, I did phone my parents and berate them for supporting him like this. Later that evening, Maria turned out to have done the same, and my parents eventually said they were sorry and acknowledged that Daniel was mistaken. In any case, Naomi was due in June of this year, and Anna wouldn't be here for several months. Fortunately, Naomi and the child were unharmed and secure. In the interim, we have experienced our fair share of insomnia, difficulties with daycare, and sporadic minor illnesses. Other than that, though, happily, everything has gone really well. Anna had birthed sometime in September of this year, and that's when our actual issue arose. Although Daniel is competitive, he doesn't seem to be very driven to really do tasks on his own, which is something I neglected to mention before. He lacks planning skills and depends on our parents to save him in every circumstance. Furthermore, he had no intention of producing this child for any purpose other than to draw attention away from our pregnancy. And the reason I know this is because he was laid off just months before they made their pregnancy announcement. He and Anna returned to live with our parents, where they have been ever since. As far as I'm aware, Daniel hasn't been looking for jobs, and Anna is obviously unable to be looking for work right now as a new mother. My parents invited Maria and myself, along with our respective families, over for dinner a few weeks ago, stating they had an important conversation to have. Following our meal, Mom and Dad informed us that Daniel and Anna were going through a difficult period and they needed our assistance in taking care of them. When we first agreed, Maria and I asked what specifically they needed help with and suggested that we might be able to contribute a little. We were truly astounded at the next section's exhibition of chutzpah by these people. Dad informed us that although Daniel and Anna wanted to leave their home and go into their own apartment, they were unable to pay for daycare. They also expected me or Maria to actually take care of the kid for a while because they couldn't afford to pay for their infant's basic requirements at this time. I nearly chuckled at how silly the whole thing was. It turns out that Daniel was being a total man-child, sitting around playing video games, while my parents and Anna handled practically all of the babysitting. My parents were supporting him even back then, claiming he simply lacks expertise and isn't good around children. They also offered the bogus explanation that he needed time to hunt for work, which I find absurd given that applying for employment doesn't require a significant amount of time away from taking care of your own child. However, I'm also fairly certain that he isn't genuinely seeking anything and will continue to live with our parents for as long as possible. Maria and I were astounded by the very absurd degree of denial. Daniel's actions and what they were demanding of us embarrassed even Anna. When Maria was the first to respond, she turned it down right away. She initially gave the explanation that she lives a few hours' drive away from our parents. She also criticized our parents for Daniel's justifications. She began by saying that he was a responsible, nearly 30-year-old man who made the decision to have a child, and that it was pitiful of them to not only house him but also to support his actions and then offer justifications for his lack of work and responsibility. Naturally, this made Daniel lose it. He called Maria a bunch of slurs that I'm not sure I want to publish, and it's amusing because he said we're both simply jealous of him and that he would always be more popular and successful than us. I intervened to inform Mom and Dad that they were to blame for this issue and that they could handle it on their own after a lengthy back and forth between them. Then Daniel asked me if I was not going to assist him as well. I could have been the a-hole in this situation, but after years of being annoyed by his actions, I informed him that he was a depressing, pitiful man who had nothing to be proud of in life and that I was surprised Anna had even married him, let alone had a child with him. At this, Anna began to cry. Recall that I promised to help him later on and that it would be me? He brought that up again, this time stating that I had previously offered assistance but was now withdrawing my offer. My parents also took offense at it and began accusing me of breaking my word and abandoning my brother when he was in need. Not that I would be supporting him and his antics, mind you, I had only informed him that I could assist him in better managing his cash. After giving them my explanation, Naomi and I departed. While we were all quite upset when Maria and her family left with us, it's important to remember that a young infant is involved who is innocent in all of this and deserves a stable and safe environment. Since he is my nephew, I'm thinking if I should have offered to help take care of him. I'm also beginning to feel really bad about the whole thing. Remarkably, neither Daniel nor my parents have gotten in touch with me since, and I believe I have gone too far. I came here mainly to vent, but I might have also sought some guidance. Read it, then. Is it my fault that I didn't encourage my brother? Music, for those who inquired, far more than I had anticipated. Here is a brief update. I made my post 2 days ago, and it appears that everyone has seen it and commented, which I am grateful for. As several of you have inquired, I did, in fact, speak with Maria in between all of this. She has dealt with my parents the most out of all of us, and she is far tougher than I am. She is completely over this whole thing and could not give a damn about what Daniel has gotten himself into. It's not my fault. When we were younger, Mom had to put up with a lot due of him, and she moved out as soon as she could. Since then, he and she have engaged in intense competition for her attention as well as her professional and academic accomplishments. She assured me that if Mom and Dad could put up with him for this long, they could handle it once more. This wasn't our problem, she said. Subsequently, she expressed her want to stop talking about it, so I won't bring up this topic with her ever again. Or perhaps I will if the circumstances call for it. As anticipated, I called her yesterday, needing someone to talk to, and who better than your elder sister? As it happens, Anna apologized to Maria over the phone yesterday morning for Daniel's actions. She was informed that Maria and I had decided to alternate in watching the child while they both looked for work and an apartment to move into, but she claimed she was unaware that we were not already aware of what they were going to ask of us. Despite having only given birth a few months prior, Anna was also reportedly already working part-time and was making every effort to support her child, while Daniel did nothing except lounge around and not even attempt to look after the infant. This made me much more enraged with Daniel than I had been before. He and my parents had led this girl to believe that she would receive some assistance from us in caring for her child, but in the end, she was informed that her child would be adopted by a different relative. After a heated argument over dinner at my parents' house, Anna has made the decision to temporarily return to her parents' house. After speaking with my sister, I do feel better, and I'm relieved that Anna's parents provide a solid and stable support structure for both the child and Anna at this time. Hello everyone, I haven't posted in a few days. I apologize for not being able to reply to everyone. Things have been a little emotionally taxing. My parents are upset with my sister and me, and Anna refuses to speak to Daniel. They called and chastised us for destroying Daniel's marriage and stealing his son. Daniel, however, continues to play the victim and refuses to accept responsibility. Since it's obvious that our family won't go away and won't change, Maria and I have made the decision to stop communicating with them. Many of you recommended following suit, so that's the course we've chosen to follow. Because we also have to care for our own child, Naomi has been under a lot of stress. That's why I blocked everyone, mostly for Naomi's benefit. In response to everyone who has inquired about the possibility of Anna and Danny divorcing, I genuinely don't know. I simply don't care, and I haven't had a meaningful conversation with either of them in a long time. The more this goes on, the more absurd it looks, and the more I want to give up on dealing with it. I appreciate all of the counsel and encouraging remarks you have offered. I was really beginning to go mad. Wow, I really didn't think there would be anything to report, but things have become really chaotic, and since everyone has been so supportive, I feel like I should give everyone here some explanation. You guys are going to adore hearing this, I'm sure. I mentioned that I hadn't spoken to my family when I last provided an update, which was a week and a half ago. In all honesty, even though I blocked my parents on Facebook, I didn't feel like blocking their phone numbers. However, this is not the primary issue. As it happened, after calling us about my previous update, Anna and Daniel decided they would like to attempt a reconciliation rather than immediately visit a lawyer for divorce. I returned to my parents' home for a while. Furthermore, Daniel had pledged to stop being such a moron and begin looking for work. In addition, he pledged to look after the child more at home so Anna could concentrate better at work and my parents wouldn't have to spend their retirement years watching kids. Anna had to travel to her family's hometown of New Hampshire for a few days to be with them and attend the burial after her aunt passed away suddenly over the weekend. Consequently, the infant, I'll just refer to him as Jack, had to be left with Daniel and my parents because it goes without saying that Anna's parents would come to the funeral. During those few days, my parents were also scheduled to be out, but I would always be home in time for supper. What does this man do, then? Sunday morning, with a baby carrier in hand, he arrives at our house and rings the doorbell, instead of attempting to care for his own son for 2 days, not even through the night. Remember, he screamed at me the last time I saw him at a Ring doorbell, and since then, he has not said a single nice word to me or Naomi, nor has he attempted to engage in a normal conversation. I was sufficiently astonished to just walk outside and find out what he desired. Then he told me that he would come pick up Jack in the evening after Mom and Dad were home, saying that he couldn't take care of the little guy and that's why he wanted to leave him at my apartment. It was 7:30 in the morning. On a Sunday. He wanted us to monitor Jack for the next 10 hours since our parents wouldn't be returning until around 8:30 p.m. We had our own baby girl to take care of. Saying that I was upset would be an understatement. Although I'm not the kind to argue with people easily, I'd had enough of Daniel. I told him that if he didn't want to take care of his child, he was a terrible excuse for a father and that he never should have gotten pregnant. I also told him that he had to go because we were not going to be babysitting Jack. He began to act out once more, even going so far as to accuse me of being to blame if something were to happen to Jack. I merely chuckled and closed the door behind him. All the same, I felt bad for Jack and worried about him. I called my parents to let them know what had transpired after making sure Daniel had left on my Ring camera. They had to postpone their trip home in order to care for my younger brother and his child. I called them, and I texted Anna right away. Since I didn't want to worry her, I wrote her to let her know that Daniel is back on his BS and that she deserves better than him, even though I knew she was probably stressed out about the burial. Naturally, I also gave Maria a call to inform her of the situation and emailed her the video of the entire incident. Now that Tuesday has arrived, neither Anna nor the rest of my family have reacted. Thus, this will probably be my final post on this site. Since my last update a few weeks ago, a lot has transpired. Since I haven't been very active in answering messages and comments, I will only touch on a few topics in this post. What did I mean, first of all, when I mentioned that Daniel was competing with us? He was the kind of child that always desired what he set his eyes on, so to speak, when we were younger. He needed a better toy if we were going to get new ones. He would work even harder in class to gain better grades if we were rewarded for our achievements. We were never worried by grades, but we were by tantrums and not being allowed to do what we wanted on our own birthdays or special occasions. Someone else pointed out that he's not competitive, he's simply envious and entitled, and I guess you could absolutely call him that too. My parents 100% enabled this as well because he was the youngest and their precious baby. Second, the day after my last post, on Wednesday, I finally received an answer from Anna when she arrived home. She asked me what had happened. I texted her the video and explained her the entire story. I also expressed my regret for having to inform her of this when I knew she was going through a difficult moment and asked her to let us know if she needed any assistance or support at all. After expressing her gratitude to me, she didn't get back to me for some time. But Daniel came at my door first thing the following morning, hammering and screaming for me to come out. He called me a sad brother and a jerk when I finally went out, saying that I was leaving him because I couldn't control my mouth. In addition, he told me that I wasn't supposed to pull all this off behind his back as his brother. I simply asked him to leave without responding. I told him to get off my property or I would contact the police, but he refused. This eventually made him leave. I was surprised that I never heard from my parents again. When I told Maria what had transpired over the phone, she became very irate. That evening, we made the decision to talk about Daniel over dinner with our parents without the presence of our spouses or kids. I informed my parents over the phone, and we arranged to have supper the next weekend. I sat them down and told them everything that Daniel had done in my house after we made plans to meet at a restaurant. They had not seen the tapes before, so I also showed them. Maria chastised him for letting his nearly 30-year-old son live with them and take advantage of them, leaving his wife and child to deal with it. My parents were quite glum, and they finally agreed with us that his actions had reached a breaking point. They informed us that Anna had decided to file for divorce and bring Jack to her parents' home since she was so upset about what he had done at my apartment. We informed them that they would have to start by evicting him and holding him responsible if they ever wanted any chance of his turning into a typical, functioning adult. They really did agree, and that's when we parted ways. Apparently, they kept their word because, once more, Daniel was destroying mine and Maria's phones and calling us liars who were trying to ruin his life out of jealousy. At this time, I decided to just block him because I was done with him. He then went on to post rage after rant on Facebook, accusing his siblings of being evil individuals who were trying to harm him. First of all, it demonstrates how immature he is that he would make such a public revelation about his personal life. Furthermore, I'm not clear what outcome he was hoping for from this. As a result, many of our family members contacted us to inquire as to what was wrong and why Daniel was acting so strangely. No one in our family truly believed him because everyone knew how he was. I responded by deciding to share the Ring camera recordings on my Facebook and stopping there. Before long, everyone had the photo, and they were tearing Daniel to pieces, as he should. After that, I blocked him and won't be contacting him again for some time. I don't care enough to find out about his work, housing situation, or marital status, but our parents will keep us informed if anything changes. Nevertheless, I would like to thank everyone who provided comments and advice. Having a community to turn to seek objective viewpoints was reassuring. That concluded the story for today. I sincerely appreciate your listening.